Hello everyone, welcome to the Lesson 2 class activity. We're going to walk through some of these things to help you understand what's going on. So this is pretty similar to the Lesson 1 activity with a few small differences. Down here we're initializing the database. If we have an error and we're initializing the database, we're going to log it. Otherwise, we're going to listen on the port and log the port we're listening on. We are also importing our initdb from Connect, and we're going to go over that in a bit. The way we have it set up here, if our database isn't initialized, then we're going to log that error and crash our site. We wouldn't want to have our site up without a connection to the database, but in some circumstances you might want that. There are many other ways you can do this as well. Let's dive into connect.ts. So we're exporting two functions, initdb and getDB. First, we're going to make a variable that holds a database connection. In our initdb, we're going to check if the database is already initialized. If it is, we're going to return and the function is going to end. If not, we're going to connect to the database using our MongoDB URI string. So if you're unfamiliar with what that is in Compass, you can copy your connection string, and that's going to be inside your .env variable. So you're going to have MongoDB underscore URI equals, and you're just going to paste your connection string. Then we're going to set the database equal to the new database instance. Otherwise, we're going to throw an error. We also have getDB down here, and we're just going to check if the database is not initialized. If it's not initialized, we're going to throw an error. Otherwise, we're going to return the database. So this is a simple way that we can connect to the database and check if it is already connected to. And if we go back to the server.ts, that's why we're using initdb here. Environmental variables are very secure, and we don't want anyone to have access to them. Whenever you're making your render site, under environment, you can add the environmental variables here. Since we're not pushing them to GitHub, you're going to have to add them here so you can connect to your database. Another thing you're going to need to do is under network access, you're going to need to add 0.0.0.0/0. Whenever you're using render, that's going to allow render to connect to the database. The database only allows connections from certain IP addresses. By adding this, any IP address can connect to your database. In a company, you would have a lot more secure settings, but for this example, we're not going to need that security, and we're going to want to allow connections from anywhere. Make sure to add a new database. You're going to want to name the collection user. Once you create it, you're going to add data. You can import the JSON or insert it directly. And then click insert. Our index.ts and our routes is not going to change much. We're just going to have a home route and a username route. In our controller, we're going to import our getDB function. So when we look back at that, if it's not initialized, it's going to throw an error. Otherwise, we're going to get our database object. So each time we need to do a get request, post request, or any other request, we're going to use that getDB function. We're going to find the collection called user, convert the result to an array, and store it in a variable called list. So inside of this block right here, we're setting the header to JSON, and we're going to return with a status code of 200, and we're getting the list of the index of 0. So if we go to localhost, since this is just our regular get user, we're going to get our ID and our username. So it's our entire object. Now for our get username, the only difference is we're going to return our list variable at index 0, but we're going to do .username. So if we go to get username, we're only going to get the username returned. So that sums up this project. Hope you have a fantastic day.